I am 100% behind Q. He's working for the president. He's working for our country.
Alien life, like pedophiles, and it just seeks to tie all of that together.
Welcome, listeners, to the 21st chapter of the QAnon Anonymous podcast, the Shadowban episode. We are your hosts, Julian Field
and Travis View.
This week, we are Jakeless, and joined in the studio by Hasan Piker, host of The Breakdown on the Young Turks, or TYT. Welcome, Hasan.
It's great to be here, guys. I have a serious question. Why are there knives everywhere in the apartment?
Well, it's in case the deep state attacks, you know?
Shit, that's true.
There's literally, I walked in, it's in the living room. They're open too. Like
I know. Well, what happened is this. I do have a collection of knives that I enjoy. The two ones that are open are my least good ones, so please don't judge me on these random knives. These are the ones that we are using to open boxes.
I always judge people on the quality of their knives. I walk in and I'm like, what kind of knives do you have? I mean, God.
Yeah, we like to intimidate. Well, the last person who came into the studio was
murdered him.
It was Travis, and he actually was assimilated into the podcast at knife point.
Okay.
This is true. Tied me to a chair. They cut up my arms. It was terrible.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
He's a family man.
I was wondering where you lost your arms. So it's good that we cleared that up right off the bat.
Yeah. The listener does not know that Travis is actually just a torso that we prop up in front of the microphone.
That's true. I get around on a scooter. It's very convenient. It's easier than it sounds. I move around with my chin.
Makes it all the more remarkable that he can compile all those tweets without his arms.
It's true.
crazy.
Tap them out with my nose. I've got a system.
Okay, we're going to be tackling the QAnon and broader right-wing claims of being shadow banned on Twitter and generally censored for the epic truth-speaking that they constantly partake in. Then we'll take a look at what's actually going on and why you might want to be worried about the tech companies for other graver offenses. Finally, we'll ask Hasan how he managed to trigger 4chan's infamous poll message board, short for politically incorrect, into calling him a, quote, monstrosity with 15% body fat and extreme charisma. Huge own. The denizens of Poll asked what could be done about this existential threat and referred to Hasan as an F-word, N-word, which is a new one, and Bugman to indicate their readiness to rumble. As you know, Hasan, this is a debate show. We respect debate, and we're going to have you debate some of these posts and see if you're as much of an intellectual heavyweight as Charlie Kirk. But before all that fun, what's been up with the community? Well, the Qbot that lives in our Discord channel is now programmed to actually answer questions with drops as well as generate drops based on previous ones from the mysterious Q. You can come and ask him where your nana really went or if video games are actually socialist praxis. In other news, my use of a Tokyo subway jingle as a transition between segments in the previous episode has bewildered a Japanese listener named M. Saws. They reside in Tokyo and actually take the specific subway line I sampled the jingle from. As a result of the complaint they lodged, I will now play the sample at random intervals to maximize chaos and confusion. You're welcome. QAnon News. All hell fizzled out quietly at a federal courtroom last Tuesday when the judge overseeing Intel spook extraordinaire Michael Flynn's sentencing did not, in fact, throw his case out and spank Mueller on his tush for entrapping the former general. Actually, the judge seems super pissed at Flynn, saying he sold out his country. Now we all know that this is some sort of elaborate piece of theater performed for the sole purpose of keeping the deep state actors oblivious to their inevitable hangings, but nevertheless, some Q believers are beginning to lose hope. Oddly enough, upon returning from recess, the judge clarified his comments saying, quote, "I'm not suggesting Flynn committed treason." Sullivan went on to say, "I was just trying to determine the benefit and the generosity of the government." What the fuck does that even mean?
Sounds like he's just mad with power and just thinks he can just say things and say takesy-backsies and it's all good.
Yeah, he's a judge, though. And then he said, don't read too much into the questions I ask, which I'm going to say that's your fucking job, right?
Yeah.
To ask the right questions as a judge. Of course, these last statements brought much nachos to the QAnon community, and they picked up their woolen blankets and once again wrapped them tightly around their heads.
I've never been more on board with QAnon until I found out their position on the traitor Gulen. So,
yeah,
Gulen.
What is it? What do they think?
I guess they if they declare Flynn to be a hero and that he's being unfairly persecuted by the deep state actors, that they must be on board with what he wanted to do and why he's there to begin with, right? Which is loving turkey too much. Him and his son both loved turkey too much.
It's true. It's true. They only eat turkey sandwiches.
I'm not saying this because I'm, as a Turkish citizen, I'm in exile by the Turkish government. I'm saying this not at gunpoint, but because I
Wait, are you actually in exile?
Not actually, but I have had light pressure.
Yeah, coming back might be an issue.
Yeah.
But we did actually want to do like a QAnon Turkey episode, and Travis was completely unable. I think that the QAnon people just don't really know what Turkey is enough. Like, it's just too confusing for them. They're just like, I don't know, man. Let's just choose Iran or something.
Yeah, it is.
They end up inadvertently supporting a communist Kurdistan.
Yeah, I would love that. Although,
Too many brown people. I don't know what side to take.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, you want to sponsor one brown person to kill the other one, that's for sure, but they just don't always know who to give the money to.
Right now, you just defined U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East for the past, 40 years, 60 years?
Pretty much. And now we have our very first report from our Canadian correspondent, Michael Bueckert, who has contributed to outlets like Jacobin and Africa is a Country.
Yeah, no, Africa is a country. The white genocide in South Africa stuff is really good. I read that.
That's Bueckert.
Yeah.
So yeah, he got famous for writing about the supposed white genocide in South Africa, which is, of course, a fraudulent idea. And then he started seeing Q signs pop up in Canada. Anyways, I'll let him explain.
Hey guys, this is Michael Bueckert calling in from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. That's in Canada, by the way. Just wanted to send you a message because I've been seeing some of your friends from the QAnon community popping up around here in cities all across this country, from Fredericton to Ottawa, Edmonton, Saskatoon, Windsor, Vancouver, and several of our other metropolitan areas. It's weird because people are in the streets waving Q signs and with messages about where we go one, we go all, and that sort of thing. So I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is this exactly? Why would an obscure conspiracy theory cult about Trump have any purchase up here? Is Justin Trudeau in on this whole deep state thing? Well, the context for all this is that Canada's far-right fringe is currently in a period of mobilization, trying to appropriate the energy and anger of the so-called Yellow Vest movement in France. Now, you may know the Gilets Jaunes or Yellow Vest movement to be a spontaneous, broad-based, and ideologically diverse movement which has taken over the streets against Macron and his austerity agenda. Its demands are many, but they include left-wing items, including a big increase to the minimum wage, as well as better pensions and social programs. In Canada, though, the first folks to really follow and discuss these events have not been the left, but the far right. One key player in this has been Rebel Media. And if you're not familiar, it's basically Canada's version of Breitbart, full of cranks and white supremacists, which for weeks has been circulating tweets of the street demonstrations and the police repression, and even sent so-called reporters to the scene. These folks have been trying to portray the Yellow Vests as a right-wing, anti-establishment, and libertarian movement, principally focused on Macron's unpopular fuel taxes, but also opposed to European and UN elites. For the far right, the movement then becomes a precedent and example for Canadians who are opposed to Justin Trudeau's planned carbon tax, and who are pathologically afraid of Muslims and asylum seekers. And so, over the past couple of weeks, the far right in Canada has been appropriating the Yellow Vests and holding rallies across the country under that banner. In some cases, they've basically taken over rallies that were already organized for a specific cause, and then showed up with some yellow high-visibility vests, and now these events have all been subsumed under the Yellow Vest branding. Rebel Media is even trying to profit from the situation by selling their own branded vests for only 25 loonies. Most of these protests have been pretty small, from 2 to 10 people, but there have also been larger events, including in Ottawa and in Edmonton, with maybe a couple hundred participants, and with a counter-presence from your friendly local anti-fascists. Now, there's no central organization that's leading this nationwide movement, and the organizers differ depending on the location. So some of the key organizers have included far-right nationalist groups like the Soldiers of Odin, an anti-immigration street patrol group whose founder in Finland has neo-Nazi ties, as well as a couple of their splinter groups like Storm Alliance and Wolves of Odin. There's also a similar group, La Mute, which is based in Quebec. In Ottawa, we also saw the presence of the Three Percenters. The Three Percenters, which is an armed militia, and they're currently planning to ramp up their paramilitary training exercises, so that's great. Those guys are pretty intimidating. On the other hand, there's also been a bunch of smaller organizations, Coalition of Concerned Canadians types group, which are less a coalition than they are a bearded dude with a Facebook group and a hard drive full of anti-globalist memes. You also have the National Citizens Alliance. That's a political party that largely exists on paper and which fights for so-called Euro-Canadian interests. These people are also all obsessed with white genocide, which personally is my favorite conspiracy theory. Also showing up at these events include a whole host of 9/11 truthers, alt-right YouTubers, and of course, white supremacist Faith Goldie. So that kind of gives you a sense of the ideological diversity of this movement, if you will. Now, there's two main issues animating the Yellow Vests in Canada. First, you have anger over the proposed carbon tax, a theme which is particularly prominent in the oil-producing western provinces like Alberta. Second, a lot of people are furious that Canada joined the UN's Global Compact for Migration. The compact itself is merely a non-binding international agreement to coordinate a response to the migration crisis. However, it's been turned into a massive conspiracy theory, fueled by the far right and even by the Conservative Party of Canada, who've peddled this myth that we've given away our sovereignty over our own borders to the UN, globalists, and the New World Order. These themes are prominent on the Yellow Vest Canada Facebook group, which now boasts an impressive 100,000 members and growing. Predictably, the page is also flooded with racist, sexist, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitic memes, with countless posts railing against triple parentheses globalists, Muslims, and immigrants, and calling for Justin Trudeau to be hanged for treason. It's in this toxic landscape that we find QAnon supporters, inserting their message into a space which is already saturated with conspiracy theories. I couldn't quite tell you the extent to which Canada is involved in this whole Q situation, but one person has helpfully explained the relevance of Q to the other confused members of the Facebook group, and it's worth quoting a bit. QAnon is a movement or awakening among the common folk like me, to a totally corrupt political system that is leading us down a wicked path to socialism. Trudeau has been groomed in past years to be the puppet to take us down that road, led by the corrupt UN and globalists like George Soros. Well, there you have it then, don't you? To me, I guess what is surprising is not that Q would find its way into a Facebook group of total weirdos, but that there's people around this country in at least 8 different cities and towns who took it upon themselves to show up in public with QAnon signs and banners. The courage of these people, the tenacity. With a whole slate of new Yellow Vest protests scheduled for this weekend, we may very well see Q continue to increase, in prominence in Canada, find more followers. Honestly, it just seems like things might be getting out of hand. If you Americans could just come by and collect your buddies, that would be super. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks, guys.
So like we discussed in the Mockingbird Media episode, the QAnon community really distrusts the mainstream media, like all of it. It's all garbage, they imagine, which means that they believe that the only way that they can spread the true gospel of QAnon is through social media.
Yes, the better media.
Yes. And so they take social media extremely seriously. They don't see it as like a goofy waste of time or even like a place for discourse or a way to get your news. They think that Twitter and Facebook and Instagram maybe are all battlefields for war. Man. And they call themselves digital soldiers. They're really, really into posting online.
One of the reasons QAnon even exists, it seems, is that boomers haven't figured out gaming, because it sounds like they just want to all go play like Spec Ops or just something.
Yeah, man.
Just something cool. Like, go play The Division. Like, go...
And just as many slur words in the gaming world as the QAnon community would also appreciate.
Exactly. It is inherently a white supremacist space, gaming.
Yeah. I feel like
I would know. I on my Twitch, I battle every night.
Yeah.
Both verbally with Nazis, but also like literally when I'm playing video games. So,
yeah, you fight the Nazis in the game.
Yeah, I tried to debate them. I tried to engage them in the marketplace of ideas, but they kept killing me. So now I've resorted to the violent tactics of Antifa, which are the real fascists, of course.
Yeah, the real fascists. Have you ever ended up playing a Nazi in a video game, killing a Nazi who's playing an ally?
I don't know. I don't think so.
That's the ultimate.
So they take social media really, really seriously. And so consequently, the fear of censorship is very common and it featured early in Q drops.
Yeah.
For example, in an October 29th, 2017 Q drop, and this was the 9th Q drop ever of like 2,600 plus so far, Q said this about Democrats. Julie, you want to do the Q voice or?
Sure. Actually, you know what? We're gonna get Hasan to do a kind of like really dramatic.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a dramatic.
Okay.
Yeah, dramatic.
I was gonna try to do like a robot voice, like
That's right.
they rely on the MSM to keep the narrative going, but tech is entrenching on their controls. They missed this in 2016 and desperately attempting to censor now due to CIA cash infusions. This will fail.
That's perfect.
Perfect. So yeah, so they have this belief that the only reason Trump won the 2016 presidential election was because social media distributed information that the biased mainstream media did not want revealed.
Yeah.
Which was false information.
Well, yes, but
By the way, this is like unironically what everyone on YouTube, like everyone in the anti-SJW YouTube space, literally believes.
yes, they believe in the power of meme
Memes,
magic.
yeah.
So this led to the paranoid belief that literally all social media would be shut down. And
I'm assuming the real reason why they're paranoid is because it's the same as when their grandchildren don't email them back.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah.
the real problem here.
Yeah. Or like you haven't emailed in 3 months and then it's just their computer doesn't have the cable like plugged in the back or something, but the whole internet broke.
so Q said this on a November 2nd, 2017 Q drop.
We are fully prepared that all social media will be shut down to prevent the spread of this information, i.e. POTUS's Twitter, etc., and or mass censoring.
So
Might be both, might be one or the other.
yeah, right. I'll mean to be pedant, but when Q said IE POTUS's Twitter, he should have said EG. It seems like
Oh yeah.
this is something that people in the highest levels of military who can plan these things ought to know.
Really?
I would
Is
be a
IE
stickler.
and EG like
yeah.
military stuff?
Well, no, but it's something that I think well-educated people will know, and so
Yeah, we all know the military is
well at the highest levels,
really
of military, at
well-educated.
the highest levels of military, they are really well educated.
Are they? Have you met Mattis? Have you met these clowns? Flynn is a general.
Well, all right, maybe not Flynn, but
He literally is a QAnon guy.
yes, this is true.
We have QAnon generals now, dude. And this is from a November 21st, 2017 Q drop.
Mainstream media role, push conspiracy theory. Social media role, push conspiracy theory and institute new rules allowing for censorship.
Okay.
I mean,
So, in order to combat this alleged censorship, the QAnon community formed an unusual alliance with the giant telecom company AT&T. So basically, back in January of 2018, AT&T called for legislation to protect internet users, and Q said, "Yeah, that sounds awesome."
so wait, so Q is pro the thing that Ajit Pai fucked up, net neutrality?
Yeah,
Is QAnon pro?
Anti-net
Well, they're actually they're for something beyond net neutrality. This is like something to protect Twitter users from like being banned for arbitrary reasons and stuff.
Let's be honest. They think we should be using CB, ham radio, and talkie-walkies to communicate with each other.
When Sargon got banned off Twitter for sending gay porn to everyone instead of everyone that dare oppose him, that was a real disgusting thing that Twitter did. It's basically the same as communism, I think.
I think so too. And that is also definitely fact and canon that Sargon was sending photos of his bare bottom to everybody.
No, he was sending gay porn. I don't.
Oh, he
it
was
wasn't-
actually?
Yeah, that's not even a joke. Like Sargon of Akkad got banned off of Twitter for sending gay porn back to everyone who was like, "Hey, maybe don't say the N-word."
Damn, the intellectual dark web strikes again.
Yeah, no, Sargon didn't make the cut. Unfortunately, he's too liberal.
Wait, he wasn't. Wait, he's too.
Sargon is
God.
considered a liberal by the internet. That's how terrible.
he's a-
That's how terrifyingly right wing YouTube is. That they think that this guy, whose entire career is built upon being anti-SJW and getting really angry at Magic the Gathering cards not featuring tits, all real, by the way, everything I'm saying. Damn. And hates all Muslims and thinks that we should cut off immigration. From,
He's a UKIP guy, right?
Yeah, he's a UKIP guy, cut off immigration from all Muslim countries, loves Donald Trump, liberal.
Yeah, he is a liberal.
He's
a,
so
what do they call
reasonable.
themselves? Classical liberal?
Yes.
Yeah, where it's like
I'm a liberal, but I from a time when I could own slaves.
Yeah,
and want to
exactly.
own slaves.
it's like, listen, I just think I should have the freedom to pistol whip a black person. Like that's like we used to.
Yeah.
So on January 23rd, 2018, the AT&T CEO Randall Stevenson said this. Congressional action is needed to establish an Internet Bill of Rights that applies to all Internet companies and guarantees neutrality, transparency, openness, non-discrimination, and privacy protection for all Internet users. And in a Q drop on the same day, Q responded by saying this.
Ebor. This scares them more than anything. loss of control. Use logic. Nothing to do with AT&T. Must be regulated to prevent censorship and narrative push.
So, I love this Q drop because
it's so confusing.
I know it is. I think Q knows it's a little bit awkward that they're saying, yeah, multinational billionaire telecom company. I second what you said when they're supposed to be this sort of like populist movement that's sort of like up against the man. And so, so they brought nothing to do with AT&T. Forget about that.
This is the same like Alex Jones, a bootlicker dynamic that he went from this like contrarian who hated George W. Bush and Barack Obama.
He was
to,
the
like,
loose change guy.
Yeah, to loving Donald Trump, and it was such a weird transition for all of his fans who were like, oh, we're anti-government all the time except for Donald Trump. He's great.
But what is it about these guys that they're like this one? I just don't understand the kind of like borderline sexual attraction that they have for this this molten piece of cheese.
He's fucking thick and he's hot.
It's
dude.
true. You're right, actually.
And he wants to have sex with his daughter. And deep down inside, we all think that. So.
I'm pissed off that they keep using Photoshop liquefy on like his entire body in every shot he's ever put out through the AP.
The only time Donald Trump has ever been portrayed realistically is a Ben Garrison cartoon.
There's
no other actual image of Donald Trump being portrayed in a realistic way. Like he looks so different in real life. He's just like a thick, just strong. Yeah. You know, his pectorals are glistening in the sun.
Straight up.
Just veiny.
In the same way that the Krasensteins have the only real picture of Bob Mueller, which is just this
similar to Donald Trump.
Similar. They're both. Could you imagine them fighting each other in their kind of drawn versions
all the time?
Like if we had Garrison's Donald Trump versus the Krasenstein's Mueller in like some sort of Mothra versus Godzilla kind of shit where they're just destroying New York,
and then they just make out and it's fine, and we celebrate, and America is saved. Just kidding. All of the centrists who love Mueller are like secretly very homophobic, so they would be very upset if that happened.
No, they're usually the same people who were posting the Donald Trump making out with Putin and just being like,
another thick daddy.
Yeah. Honestly, of all of them, like I could understand Putin a little more. Like he does seem like he at least could lift a bit. And
he works out, dude.
Yeah.
I've seen his regimen. It checks out, dude. He's he's a lifter and a poster and probably even a gamer. Maybe I'm going too far with that one. Just wishful thinking.
He plays the ultimate game.
So I want to show like a couple more Q drops to sort of show his Q's kind of thinking on this. On an April 25th, 2018 Q drop, Q said this.
Are you awake?
Hey, girl.
Do you see for yourself the MSM equals propaganda tool of the left? Do you see Facebook, Twitter, Goog censoring non-left POVs?
Dude, it's Hey Girl, You Up? Are you awake?
Yeah, it's like I really shouldn't be alone right now.
The MSM is on to me.
And so in a March 10th, 2018 Q drop, Q said this.
The creation of the internet and connecting platforms is bringing about their downfall. Failure to control. MSM is dead. Hashtag Internet Bill of Rights. Q.
Okay.
So they're just generally anxious about this constantly, and a lot of the sort of like the QAnon leaders, the sort of the bigger names who push this theory, they are anxious about it too. And I want to share a video from a prominent QAnon promoter, Jordan Sather, which he published on October 11th. And he made this video in response to an incident in October in which Facebook banned 559 pages and 251 accounts that consistently broke the rules against spam and coordinated inauthentic behavior, according to Facebook. This particular purge affected pages from across the political spectrum. In fact, one of the banned pages was a liberal page called The Resistance. But our friend Jordan Sather wasn't happy about it, and of course he thought it was just affected people who share his beliefs. And this is what he had to say.
Can I say something about the purge and why it's like relevant to even today's news?
Yes.
Are you guys aware that one of the pages or multiple pages that were banned were owned by one-limbed Purple Heart veteran who also happened to start the GoFundMe for the wall?
Holy shit. That guy?
The page right-wing news.
The fake stuff. Yeah, the fake news. And he used it to seed that campaign as well at first.
And he used it to start another silenced campaign. So this is entirely relevant to the discussion as well.
Well,
But yeah.
So Facebook is basically just using that very lame reason to be able to completely censor all these platforms in what is obviously a push to control the narrative. Just over the past couple days, I and many others out there have lost hundreds, if not more than that, of followers on Twitter. It's slowly ticking down, ticking down. Every time I check it, it goes down another 10, 20, 50 followers. And not only that, but I've definitely noticed the shadow banning increasing. Many of these big tech companies are pushing. They are making another wave, another round of censorship to control that narrative. Of course, because we are approaching midterms, just only a few weeks away from those. Not only that, but with everything else going on in this world, all these actors within the deep state are continuously being outed. No question, no wonder why Facebook is targeting hundreds and hundreds of accounts and pages today.
I love the dedication that these people have to posting, and I'm sure you guys understand that.
No.
Like, it's just imagine creating oppression where no such oppression exists by tying it directly to social media engagement, which is beautiful in a way, because this is exactly what the older generations thought millennials would get too caught up in.
Yeah.
And Gen Z would get too caught up in, except from what we've seen thus far, Gen Z does not really care about engagement metrics as much as millennials do. And it turns out boomers care a hell of a lot more about metrics than anyone else. Turns out their entire identity is tied to how many Patriot Trump MAGA 24 accounts follow them and retweet blindly their post. I want to read you guys a post, okay?
Yeah.
So this is from 5/14/2018. Trump says, "Big day for Israel. Congratulations." And this is American flag emoji, American flag emoji, American flag emoji, Diana, American flag emoji, female blonde emoji, responding to that tweet. She says,
Okay.
"I love you, ? I support .you, 1000%. Am with you always. You will go down in history as the absolute best president ever." And there's a photo of it, her Diana, with a hat she's wearing that says, "I am a Trump girl." Here, I'll show you that as well.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that post, there's another post underneath it from the same account, a Trump girl. "Diana at a Trump girl died unexpectedly a few hours after posting this last tweet.
Excuse me?
President Trump, I'm her husband, and I thank you for making the last 2 years great again."
Oh, that is so depressing. I mean, listen, first of all, we have no idea if she actually died, but if she did, it was definitely from stepping on a rake.
Oh my God.
Or falling into a hole.
No, it's the government that got her.
Oh, the fluoride in the water finally
Yeah.
seeped in.
See, yeah, this is horrifying whether it's real or it's fake.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously if it's real, it's horrifying that, people, it's like, oh, my
Wait.
wife died, but I'm gonna post for her. I'm gonna post for my
Wasn't
poor
there
dead
some?
wife.
Never
Wasn't
stop
there
posting.
some centrist guy like?
Kurt Eichenwald's wife, after he got spammed with gifts that were like really flashy to trigger an epileptic seizure, his wife took over his account.
She did. She had to
narc on everyone.
Listen, when I have an epileptic seizure, I can only hope that my wife knows me well enough to immediately get on Twitter and start posting as me.
Yeah, and then Kurt's large adult sons are gonna beat everyone too. They've identified everyone's IP addresses.
Terrified, but yeah, this is such a classic move where you do a post and then you do like a dramatic
then
follow
you
up to the
die.
post. Yeah.
You do a post and you die, and then your husband takes over your account to let the president know that she might have died, but it's fine.
Yeah, she might have died because of you. She slipped on a MAGA hat in her kitchen and just smashed her head against the counter.
Yeah,
awful.
It was gently placed there by an Antifa fascist, of course. An
Unfortunately,
Antifa terrorist.
She applied a Trump sticker to her exhaust pipe and killed herself.
Jesus Christ. But it's fine.
She didn't do it on purpose.
It's fine because her husband's controlling the account now. So
And he's still thanking the president, this cuck-ass bastard. He's like, thank you, Mr. President, for killing my wife.
yeah. My wife died because she loved you too much, but that's fine.
Dude, she just died of a big heart, you know?
I want to talk about Jordan Sather. It's like he talks about like, oh, I'm losing followers and they aren't getting as much engagement and stuff. And they're obviously There might be a million reasons for that. Twitter might be purging bots. His content might just suck.
Yeah, all he has to do is go back to Fiverr and pay a Pakistani like $5 again to get his 10,000 followers again. It's not hard.
It's nonsense.
Most accounts like his have like super high following count, so they're doing growth hacking anyways.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk, you mean?
Yeah, every single
follows like 700,000 people.
Yeah, and that's why they fucking and then like all the boomers give them follow backs. But what these people are is literally just little white vaudeville grandchildren. That's what they are. Their entire fucking shtick is like, I'm your grandchild if he was nice and he played into your current anger. They're just little play children. Makes me sad.
It's the grandma's nice little boy show.
That's it. Grandma's nice little boy show. That is the majority of all these dudes. Ben Shapiro is that. Charlie Kirk is that.
So on September 12th, the QAnon community suffered what they thought was an instance of big tech censorship. On Reddit, the subreddit Our Great Awakening was banned. And we covered this more in depth on episode 7, QAnon Anonymous. It was called the Great Reddit Bans of 2018.
With Jared Holt.
With Jared Holt. And this was a big blow to the QAnon community. And so here's how Q reacted to that particular incident.
Content violations, stay strong, stay together. The censorship will fail. Those they attack the most are the biggest threat. Expect Twitter/Facebook Force next. AJ template was designed to attack/censor QAnon. Primary objective.
So yeah, that last line, AJ template was designed to attack, censor QAnon primary objective. So what Q is referring to here is the instance where Alex Jones was deplatformed all over the place on iTunes and Twitter. And he was saying that Alex Jones was just sort of the route to get to QAnon. QAnon's next, and soon all QAnon people are going to be banned from all social media.
Well, it says a lot that like almost all roads on the right pass through Alex Jones.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, after he was banned, especially from iTunes, which was partly due to the great work by friend of the show Jared Holt. There was this a little anxiety. Like no one really wanted to defend Alex Jones.
But
at the same time,
they just want to say like, if he's first, then who's next? But they don't want to be like,
first they came for Alex Jones.
Totally.
And I did not speak out because I don't believe that psychic pedophile vampires are controlling the planet.
It's
It's
weird.
the classic. It's the same as the Nazis, guys.
Well, you will regret it later.
Yeah.
And then September 29th, 2018 Q drop. Q said this.
Twitter has been given the green light to blanket censor all content deemed to threaten their survival. Election. Goog. Facebook will follow. Expect comms blackout attempt. POTUS Twitter.
I think we can all agree that during the election of Donald Trump, what came out is how good the right was and his campaign was at using Twitter in incredibly legal ways and spending millions of dollars. Why? It just doesn't fit.
Yeah,
Hillary sucked ass at using these platforms.
yeah.
I mean, she unironically, she was really bad at it. Yeah.
Yeah,
she was.
No, really.
Like
She Pokemon Go'd to the polls. Like she did all the stupidest possible stuff.
I know that under no circumstances you got to hand it to him, but Trump is just an incredible shit poster.
It's true.
He's a classic of all time.
He is a fucking troll.
QAnon people, they really, really love memes. They don't think these are like silly things. They think they're like weapons of war.
Hells yeah.
And so November 2nd, 2000.
Well, technically, they literally were in Myanmar, but that's
Well, yeah, well.
What? How so? I actually want to hear this.
Well, Facebook was partially responsible for exacerbating the genocide in Burma
Yeah.
against the Muslims there.
Yeah.
And they used fake information and spreading fake information to justify the deaths in those villages, where they would just like literally send in attack helicopters. Like,
This is going to be part of QAnon in like 2-3 days. Like I'm sure he's on it, dude. He really.
Well, I
he
mean,
really
this happened like a while ago, but
Oh damn it! Well, sometimes he's a little late to the party, but like you gotta trust the plan, man. He's gonna take care of addressing this.
So in that instance, I'm just saying memes were literally a weapon of war.
That's true.
Fair enough.
I mean, but they can't be the
imagine-
sole weapon of war, right?
I know.
They have to
Imagine-
be accompanied with people with guns actually going and killing the people.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, imagine if Henry Kissinger had memes, dude. It would be, I mean, unstoppable.
Yeah.
It
Have
would-
you
he
ever
would be
seen
even more effective?
You've never seen a country after it's been carpet bombed by memes,
Yeah.
just flattened.
You haven't. It's like when Genghis Khan redirected a river over that one town that he hated really hard. Memes will do that.
Yeah,
to
you just see the Google map of the country, and it just has giant impact, all caps letters printed into
Yeah.
it permanently.
like
from space.
minions. There's just like so many minions memes all over it, saying stuff like, "Oh, liberals, Venezuela."
Yeah, but
bottom text.
It's carved out by Agent Orange, just
Yeah.
like fucking, just using the country like a printer.
Wow, I didn't know that the QAnon podcast was so problematic as to make jokes at the expense of genocide. Wow,
Make jokes at the expense of minions. We would never, we would never. Boomer listeners, we love minions, so don't think we're problematic.
In a November 2nd, 2018 Q drop, Q said this.
There is a reason why we encourage memes so much. There is a reason why we came here to drop.
Oh my god.
There is a reason why they are all working overtime to build code to censor and defend against memes. Regarding read drops, memes.
I can't get over how seriously they take these memes, especially since, you know, I'm like in my mid 30s. And when I first heard about internet memes, it was like pictures of a cat with goofy sayings over
Yeah,
it.
it was the evolution of hang in there.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
you don't have to be crazy to work here. It just helps.
Yeah, they're goofy jokes, and like it was sort of like, you know, everyone can sort of make their own. They're simple to make. It
Yeah.
was fun, and but these people are talking about like memes like they're a battlefield supply line. We need our memes, all the memes we can get.
You know, in the past, you needed giant corporations like Bayer or IBM to provide the infrastructure for genocide. But then when they launched the first thing where it's like, here's how you can put impact font directly onto a photo really easily, they didn't know that that was the weapons of war being armed.
The thing I always am shocked by is how collectivist these people are, right? I mean, this is basically agitprop. This is basically agitative propaganda that is crowdsourced. And it is somewhat effective, especially with our current level of education in the United States. And everyone's brains are completely rotten, either as a consequence of, you know, consumerism or as a consequence of just the fluoride in the water. Who knows?
That's what it is,
It
yeah.
could be either or. But it is, in the end of the day, it is effective. It is collectivized, agitated propaganda being spread.
Where we go one, we go all could be a socialist statement.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's always shocking to me that, like, all of these guys, including like Jordan Peterson, who very openly rails against any instance of collective action after the civil rights movement, because that's too problematic.
That was the last good one. They all agree because they can't possibly.
Yeah, it's like too problematic to say anything that goes beyond that point. But they turn into Marxist revolutionaries that want to democratize the workplace whenever someone gets banned off of like Patreon for saying the N-word with a hard R.
It's true, yeah.
This is a real story, by the way.
Yeah.
This is shocking to me.
If we turned all the factories into N-word factories, I think they would actually defend communism.
Yeah, no, literally. If the only output that we had was just shit posters who want to send death threats to feminists.
Well, if they keep exporting jobs, my dude, I think that will be the only export of America by 2024. Just memes.
Just hell future.
So that's really the key to sort of understanding why they're so humorless about social media and why they fear censorship so much. They think they're digital soldiers engaging in regular warfare instead of shit posters who post about insane bullshit, and thinking that they deserve a Purple Heart for getting a 12-hour suspension on Twitter.
We all know that we are the only ones who deserve that.
That's true. That's true.
We're the good guys.
I've never been suspended on Twitter. Has yet to happen. I'm sure it'll happen one of these days.
It's because we of course talk about, you know, things that don't threaten the current status quo. Things like, I don't know, reorganizing our economic structure in a way that makes more sense, that yields more egalitarian outcomes, is actually not threatening to the status quo, like someone sending out a Despacito Despicable Me meme about how millennials are eating condoms and snorting Tide Pods.
I love to eat condoms. So now we're going to take a little gander into the broader right-wing take on censorship and why. So on July 26, 2018, Trump took to Twitter to complain about shadow banning. He said, "Twitter shadow banning prominent Republicans. Not good. We will look into this discriminatory and illegal practice at once." Many complaints. But how did the president come up with the term shadow banning? Because that's too gamer for him. I don't know. It just doesn't sound right. Well, unfortunately, we have Vice News to thank for him saying that. They did a story on July 25th where they used the term to refer to prominent Republicans who they claimed were having their visibility reduced on Twitter, specifically in the search results. They framed it as deliberate despite not providing any evidence. Vice claimed shadow banning was occurring to professional Donald Trump cosplayer Donald Trump Jr., and James O'Keefe, the man who dressed in a pimp outfit to discredit Acorn, a community-based organization that advocated for low and moderate income families by working on neighborhood safety, voter registration, healthcare, affordable housing, and other social
Disgusting.
issues. I mean, I'm just so glad that the Democrats, didn't have a spine and shut down this disgusting organization when they were called out by literally a guy in a pimp costume who now gets a voice and to sit at the table. But actually, the supposedly shadow banned morons did show up in search results, just not in the auto-populated search bar. Before Vice News, nobody had called this shadow banning, which usually referred to a user's content becoming invisible to everyone except themselves. In the original meaning of the term, the user doesn't even know that this has happened to them. They keep posting memes about Hillary and nobody else sees them. So Vice used the term, and then what? Trump doesn't usually read Vice. Well, enter Breitbart and InfoWars. They use the story as proof of what they'd been claiming for a long time, that the best and brightest on the right were being silenced by technocratic liberals like Jack Dorsey, who they described as being on the left despite his politics not quite lining up with that claim. Then James O'Keefe did a big boy video again, this time supposedly capturing a Twitter employee admitting to the practice of shadow banning. Of course, his videos are heavily edited and tend to exclude context and omit leading questions, etc. As is common these days, it didn't matter. O'Keefe's disingenuous muckraking video gave the right a huge hard-on, and Twitter then told Fox News that his video was deceptive and underhanded. So what were the changes that prompted the original misframed Vice article and subsequent pageant of outrage? Well, here's from Twitter's own statement on the matter.
We do not shadow ban. You're always able to see the tweets from the accounts you follow. We do rank tweets and search results.
Okay, so followers can see the accounts, but maybe they won't pop up as much on their timelines or in their searches. Why might that be? Well, Twitter has a policy about, quote, bad faith actors, which they say, quote, intend to manipulate or detract from healthy conversation. So what counts as a healthy conversation for Twitter? According to Twitter, 3 things.
Be a Nazi. No, I'm just kidding. Post about Himmler nonstop. Okay. 1, specific account properties that indicate authenticity, e.g., whether you have a confirmed email address, how recently your account was created, whether you uploaded a profile image, etc. 2, what actions you take on Twitter, for example, who you follow, who you retweet, etc. And 3, how other accounts interact with you, for example, who mutes you, who follows you, who retweets you, who blocks you, etc.
Twitter then went on to say, quote, we know this approach is working because we see fewer abuse reports and spam reports, which to me that just means you've successfully protected people from seeing things they don't like, because people now report stuff for nothing. I mean, I saw a conversation on Poll trying to get people to go to your Twitch to go report you.
Oh, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that I'm a verified partner because I'm a leftist, of course, and
Yeah.
Amazon owns Twitter. I'm sorry. Amazon owns Twitch. And as you all know, as Candace Owens correctly pointed out in an interview with Russell Brand, that Jeff Bezos is a socialist.
He's a socialist. Everyone knows that.
So that's why Jeff Bezos doesn't care. And he's like, no, it's totally fine. We're allowing socialists to exist on the platform.
The funny thing is, from all reports, the kind of workrooms and factories that Amazon uses are socialist in the way that Candace Owens thinks of socialism, like Stalin-esque kind of work labor camps and shit. So they do really probably think that, even though the guy has designed the entire thing just to enrich himself.
So you're saying Candace Owens is a dengist. China is actually a pure socialist state. and they're only hiding their power levels by the existence of having billionaires. But eventually, because once the economy gets to a certain point, everyone's going to have equal share of everything.
Yeah, which would suck. We all agree. That's awful. You know, although I don't think conservatives are being targeted, I'm also not convinced by Twitter's response here. I don't trust them at all to be the arbiters of good or bad faith actors. It sounds way too similar to civility politics for me. Like, oh, the people will have the best reach will be just the centrists. They won't piss off as many people. Not as many people will complain about them because they're inoffensive and kind of neutered in their political argument. Yeah, everyone else will get complained about.
Who is a leftist obviously follows. You know.
Mike Cernovich, centrist to some, leftist to others, pro-rape to all. He's still up there. But are right-wing or even far right-wing voices systematically being silenced on Twitter? Well, a quick glance shows that David Duke is still on Twitter. He denies the Holocaust, promotes anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and was literally the grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. You'd think he'd be the first against the wall. Not so. In fact, he has multiple daily posts with plenty of likes and retweets on his anti-Semitic messages that include words in triple parentheses and the term Lügenpresse, a German word for, quote, lying press, which was used by the Nazis to claim they were being unfairly depicted in the Jewish, communist, and foreign press. And we all know how that turned out. Education for Libs, aka Dylan Wheeler of Premium Episode 4 fame, remains on Twitter with hundreds of thousands of followers and healthy engagement, despite claiming that Michelle Obama is a man, Hillary Clinton is a Satanist that drinks child's blood, and that it's morally justified to use deadly force on the migrant caravan. Cool.
I feel educated.
Yeah.
Just by you recapping some of his greatest hits, I feel more educated now.
Premium Episode 4 actually sees us dive into a police report on young Dylan before he had fully gone to the right, when he was still like a weird mix of like Alex Jones and Noam Chomsky, and also like a kind of suburban white hip hop guy who was suicidal and cut his own wrist and had his friends call the cops. The cop showed up, female cop. He punched her in the face after showing her his dick. Like there's, you know, and now he's like cosplaying as like a kind of good Christian boy who still makes claims of like, you know, satanic pedophilia and shit. But
it's good old wholesome Christian stuff that was in the Bible.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, he killed the migrants with lethal force is totally justifiable.
I love it when the cops show up and I pull down my pants and I say, "Who wants to party?" And then I punch the cop in the face, but she doesn't shoot me because I'm white. And I get to go and make an awesome Twitter account that has like 400,000 followers and claim that Hillary is a fucking Satanist, and I still get to stay on Twitter. That's fucking rad. It also doesn't really show any kind of, you know, conspiracy to silence these people. Although he does constantly claim like, I think the account is about to be shut down if this is my last tweet, you know, like that kind of shit. He definitely peddles in that. Also, Stefan Molyneux is still online too. He's got a huge following and openly muses about race science. Recently, he took a trip to Poland, which has become a thirst trap for neo-Nazis due to its recent mainstreaming of their far-right movement. And after his little vacation, Stefan said, quote, "I am an empiricist, and I could not help but notice that I could have peaceful, free, easy, civilized, and safe discussions in what is essentially an all-white country." He just couldn't help but notice it.
Right.
I always notice that when I'm with like three or four white friends. I'm like, God, guys, this has been a good conversation. You know who I want out of the country?
I'm an empiricist, so I made sweeping generalizations based upon one vacation.
Yeah,
That's everybody
science.
knows that empiricists usually look at anecdotes.
Yeah,
Right.
that's exactly the
You need
definition.
a sample size of one if you want
Yeah.
to be a good empiricist.
Yeah. God, people are so stupid, dude.
Mike Cernovich is also still on Twitter. Huge head scratcher on him. He had used Twitter to organize harassment campaigns against multiple people, accusing them of being pedophiles with no evidence. Cernovich has also openly advocated for rape, and even worse, has repeatedly subjected us to pictures of his tiny blue pinhead eyes sunk into his lifeless, fleshy skull. Gorilla mindset, baby. But yeah, no, they're all still on there. Like, it's a fucking... It's a murderer's row of like just the worst right-wing insane people that would be 100% just offline in Germany.
Well, who's to say that Mike Cernovich is bad for executing targeted harassment campaigns on people he deems pedophiles without no evidence, when the other side is advocating for universal health care or Medicare for all?
That's
those
good
two
point.
are equally murderous and violent and illegal.
Yeah.
So, some people think that healthcare is the same. So
It is,
advocating
yeah.
for healthcare is the same as that. So they
Yeah.
should stay. I am a reasonable centrist.
Everybody loves debate. So Hasan, did you notice your account or TYT's account suffering from any of what we just described? Like, what's your take on this debacle?
I mean, I can't speak for TYT. I don't know about like our YouTube metrics or whatever, but I was responsible for our entire Facebook operations for the past couple of years now, and grew it to a sizable, sizable audience, including then started my own Facebook page, which then also grew to I believe 600,000 followers at this point.
Yeah, we're looking forward when you post a link to this episode.
Yeah, so there was, don't, because the point I was going to make is that Facebook is very, very tricky with their algorithm. They
are.
constantly shut it off. They constantly turn it on.
They're awful.
Yeah. And it's certainly, I mean, I've never been a big believer in like the free market, which I think is a myth regardless. But it's certainly not a free market on Facebook. It's not a free market exchange of ideas at all. And that you're basically a slave to the algorithm.
Yeah, and there's actually like a permanent rating for your page that you'd never get to see. And if you've partaken in particular actions, like they will demote your page and you will be, I guess, the equivalent of what normal people would call shadow ban. But it has mostly to do with
writing about Israel and writing about Black Lives Matter, two things that I covered extensively when especially around the time when there was those massive protests at the border.
Yeah.
After Trump decided to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And all of those videos got censored. Every single one of those videos got censored, like literally censored. I'm not just saying this because like I thought the view counts were much lower, like 30,000 versus 2 million on any given regular video. But it actually said, hey, this video features graphic content. Another video that was censored was a friend of mine's Al Jazeera Plus video that she did about socialism. No violent depictions, no violent imagery whatsoever, nothing. Just talking about what's the deal with socialism.
But that's just one of the two sides for them, and that is an extreme of one side in these people's minds.
But like describing a political theory was enough to be banned.
Yeah.
The ones that they banned of mine about Black Lives Matter protests, or I have different protests from around the country, or like police extrajudiciously killing black people like they normally tend to do. That sort of coverage is essential, and they oftentimes censor it after it hits a specific point. The Israel-Palestine stuff was immediate. Like it was immediate. No one saw those videos.
Yeah, unless you're paying for it, you're not going to be putting out your videos. Even if you have hundreds of thousands of followers. I've worked for companies trying to grow their Facebook or whatever, and it's pay for play, like pure pay for play. It doesn't matter if you're a media platform, unless you're one of those like deep partner like media platforms. I think there's like a few that they were like the early ones that signed the kind of embedded news stuff. So like when Facebook was really trying to become the main outlet for news, very early, there were like some of the bigger ones that had deals and they just kind of stayed on. But yeah, of course, like if the entire perception is like on one side we have AJ Plus and the Young Turks, and on the other side we have InfoWars, if you treat those as like two parts of a normal debate, then your algorithms are not going to be smart. Like it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, here's another thing about Facebook. So all of the pressure that outside forces put on Facebook worked, including people like Diamond Silk giving these like crazy testimonies in congressional hearings where they were testifying about why they took $5,000 from Paul Nehlen, for example, who is now we know is a Nazi, or we did even back then, but everyone thought I was being a silly liberal and hysterical. And in those meetings, or even in the meetings where anytime like any social media executive sits in front of Congress, Ted Cruz will get up and become this like big trust buster, anti-corporate Republican who exclusively talks about freedom of speech. And it actually worked. Facebook ended up, I believe, working with the Heritage Foundation and in getting consultation from them on tweaking the algorithm.
Yeah.
Now, Kevin Roose for the New York Times has been tracking this sort of stuff fairly regularly off of CrowdTangle, and looking at any given news story that's important for the week. And the top 10 search results are always Daily Wire, like Ben Shapiro, not InfoWars obviously anymore because it's gone, but Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson. It's always the top 10. Like the top 7 is always populated with right wing, like far right to right wing commentators.
Yeah, and it does also speak to the demographic, I think, on Facebook, and the fact that when you look at like cable news, you're probably going to see an overlap of people who are still hanging out on Facebook and using that as their main platform, and people who are still watching shit like Fox News. And as we all know, Fox News is the biggest cable network, so it's like extremist thought is like the mainstream thought for that, I think, for that demographic. But it's true that they have an immense amount of control. And also, I mean, just recently we did see like Facebook double down and try to, instead of fix what they were doing, they tried to fix the PR issue, you know, by hiring people who were spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories or seeding anti-Semitic.
You mean Pod Save America?
So what do you think of the development of victim culture on the right? I mean, this seems like a thing that they constantly are accusing the left of,
They've
but now
always had it.
there's so much complaining.
They've always had it. The entirety of reactionary right wing politics centers around, like, the cultural elements center around how people getting civil liberties is somehow infringing on their personal freedoms. I mean, white people have been screaming about the civil rights movement. Evangelical Christians have been screaming about the LGBT community being able to get married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how does that take away anything from your personal freedom?
Well,
It's
in the
always
mid,
about
I'm eating a
victimization.
churro, my 8th of the day at Disneyland, and then I look over and I see an incredibly well-dressed man with really nice ass holding another man's hand. And I feel queasy for about 5 seconds before my next churro, and I say something rude to my wife. That's
Yeah.
unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean, though. Like, it's always about victimhood. What the right wing does really well is project for almost everything. They project so effectively, and they take over all pathways of communication, and they flood the marketplace with their ideas and reframe that entire conversation.
Yeah.
For example, what's the classic anti-Semitic conspiracy theory? Billionaire, shadowy, mega donor, George Soros is funding all of these protests. Well, who does that actually? Like, George Soros is a liberal in the end of the day. He's not a socialist. He's a fucking billionaire, right?
Yeah.
Who does that? The Koch brothers do that. Like, Sheldon Adelson does that.
The
Like,
Waltons.
The Waltons, yeah, they actually do this. Does George Soros participate in this somewhat? Sure, absolutely. But is George Soros representative of the left? Of course not.
And he's far outweighed by forces on the right that stack billions.
But more importantly than that, they always talk about activist judges. Well, what the fuck is the Federalist Society? Like, that is literally a pipeline.
What
to
the fuck
create-
is not allowing Obama to put up a judge and then jamming through Kavanaugh, except
Yeah. Well, I mean,
putting in an activist judge?
yeah, that's precisely what the Federalist Society does. Like, they have created a pipeline from like all these waspy dipshits at Notre Dame to go immediately into these like Skull and Bones Society style robe wearing anti-LGBT, anti-civil liberties for everyone positions in lower courts, and then all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's literally what activist judges are.
Yep.
It's all bullshit. It's all projection.
Yeah.
And we should never concede. 100%.
Love it. There's been a lot of discussion about our political class hanging out with each other despite profound differences. Michelle Obama giving George Bush a mint and writing very nice things about him recently, and politically opposed hosts sitting together for drinks after like a heated debate on CNN or Fox News or something like that. Did you hang out with Charlie Kirk after Politicon, and did you spill salsa on his new sneakers?
Fuck no, dude.
I mean,
No. Charlie's tried to reach out to me in the past and like get a drink and whatever, but I think that's because he's, one, young, and two, he's already a part of like the mainstream media culture.
Yeah.
And I've seen this with my own two eyes. I never actually knew how terrible this was behind closed doors when I went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner weekend and when we did counter programming last year. DC is literally the worst place on the planet. It is genuinely the most evil place on the planet. You feel it when you walk into DC, to any given establishment where people from the left and the right are getting together and grabbing drinks and whatever.
yeah.
You know, I saw Kellyanne Conway and Michael Avenatti and Anthony Scaramucci at a party, and everyone was gushing to talk to all of them because they are all just celebrity figures.
Yeah.
To them, they only care about their social status. They don't necessarily care about anything that they're saying. These people are all amoral, and they're all performing their act.
Yeah, they want to stay in the ecosystem.
Yeah, they know that they have a place. They know that they have specific lines that they have to read when they're on a TV.
Yeah.
And it's not as nefarious or like as organized as I'm making it seem. It's not like a conspiracy theory. They just don't give a shit because they're rich. They're rich, and they know that they can get richer by playing their part in the system.
Yeah.
But all of these other brain dead boomers that watch Fox News genuinely think that these people are. I mean, and I exclude Tucker Carlson from this conversation because I genuinely think he is a white nationalist who's hiding his power levels.
Yep.
But everyone else is just doing their part.
Wait, was that a Dragon Ball Z reference?
It's a 4chan / Dragon Ball Z reference. Yes.
Nice. I was like, okay.
Yeah, Nazi, like alt-right will say like, oh, I'm hiding my power levels before like red pilling people.
Damn.
That's what fascists do.
They all think they're Vegeta, but
Yeah.
they don't. They forget that Vegeta switched sides, and Vegeta's a socialist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, wasn't Hitler a socialist? Owned, wrecked, got him. Oh. So he called himself a socialist.
The truth is here.
Yeah.
And his name is Hasan. Hasan, you're the youngest Turk. Do you fear that the network might be called TOT in 5 years?
Dude, Cenk is already old as shit. Like, if they're not calling it the old Turks at this point, then no.
You heard it here. You can call them tater tots. You went from a somewhat behind-the-scenes role with TYT to being very much front-facing. How's that transition been?
I love it. I mean, I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to create my own show at TYT even before I started working there. And I got the opportunity to do that because the organization was somewhat mismanaged as far as like allowing people to create content. I just took advantage of like a supply closet and started writing stuff and it took off. And
nice, yeah. You're referring to the breakdown, right?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, everyone should go check that out for sure. In recent years, we've seen a collapse of credibility for the mainstream media channels. This has given rise to alternative ways of having the world explained to us. It means some positive things like TYT and Chapo have been elevated, but it's also meant InfoWars becoming more prevalent and QAnon capturing the imagination of a sizable segment of the population. What do you think of this development, and where do you think the American media landscape is heading?
The American media landscape is terrible because the right, and it's almost analogous to the American political landscape, which is that the right keeps increasing their mania, keeps advocating for the most insane and violent legislation they could possibly, and the most cruel things that they could possibly say or do, whereas the left, and I don't mean this as like the actual left, I mean liberals, who I would regard as conservatives themselves, keep trying to keep the entire operation together, as though the other side is full of reasonable actors who just have a difference in opinion. When a difference in opinion would be, sure, let's say a difference in opinion is I don't want to give people free healthcare because I'm a cruel person and I don't care if poor people die. That's a violent difference in opinion, but a difference in opinion isn't these migrants, we should gas these migrants. It's fine. It's just nacho. I could put it on my nachos and eat the tear gas.
Migrants being dirty is not an opinion. There's no logic there.
It's not it's not like a different, technically it is a different opinion.
Yeah.
But it goes far beyond just having like a rational, reasonable debate with someone. And yet people who are free speech absolutists like Glenn Greenwald even still frequently make it seem as though like these people should keep their platforms, which they were handed to by other wealthy billionaires who know that this sort of messaging is incredibly successful in focusing the masses' attention on things that are completely irrelevant to the actual economic realities that they're suffering under.
Did you manage in that conversation at Politicon to actually at some point get Charlie to tell you where the money was coming from for TPUSA?
Of course not. He freaked the fuck out and he started screaming about how he lives like a capitalist every day, and that he's funded by the grassroots of this country, which is Foster Freeze and the Koch brothers.
Yeah,
of course.
His rage on that stage was something else. I have to say, it gave me a little bit of pleasure just to see him completely unravel like that, because I'll be honest, if I'm sitting on a good point that is backed by a kind of coherent moral vision of the world, I probably wouldn't get that fucking jumped up. I'd be like, yeah, these people are bad actors. I'm just going to lay back and make my point, But he wanted Cenk to really answer for it. All right, so too bad. We are still waiting to find out who bankrolls TPUSA. If you know, just write on in, and we'll have you on the show. It seems like in our polarized political moment, civility no longer applies. Certainly what the boomers are complaining about Despite the older talking heads, who made their names on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News, younger media personalities seem to be okay with being a little ruder to each other or even using Twitch and playing video games all day.
Yeah, civility's bullshit. Like I've said this from day one. What's civil about a child dying in poverty? You know what I mean? Especially when we are the wealthiest country on the planet. What's civil or polite about having a discussion about whether poor people should have to go back to a lifetime of indentured servitude just so that they can have access to $1.40 meals per day. Like this is insane. There's nothing civil about a lot of the policies that both the Democrats and the Republicans back.
Yeah,
there's nothing civil about it. And as a matter of fact, I think civility is holding us back. It's the biggest issue. It's one of the biggest issues that's holding back the working class of Americans from actually realizing where the issue is. And we're having a conversation about semantics rather than an actual conversation about how we can make the lives of Americans better.
Right. And so, like, what is the kind of best version of an uncivil future that could mean something? Is it really that discussion at this point no longer is relevant and action really is what's important?
Discussion is still relevant. I even think that what I'm doing on Twitch is still decent because like I get the opportunity to play with these other massive professional video game athletes and stuff like that have access to 20,000, 30,000 concurrent viewers. The point I was going to make is that talking to these people about socialism or even in like alternate like economic theory that they may not have been exposed to ever, and that's deliberate, of course, here in America especially, is it opens their mind, especially if they have a lot of empathy, or especially if they have a lot of compassion. And gamers, or at least Twitch streamers, have very little alienation from labor because they're freaking doing exactly what they wanted to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's easy to show them, and they usually don't get their start that way. They usually get their start as like, flipping burgers or whatever.
Doing awful
shit. So they understand that is a future that we could afford to every single human being, a life of dignity. And those sorts of conversations are really productive because obviously these people aren't going to get bread pilled like overnight. They're not going to turn into freaking communists, or they're not going to go in and like buy a copy of the Communist Manifesto. But if I can make this conversation as entertaining and as educational as possible, and even get them to start questioning the reality that is in front of them, that this is an inherently exploitative system, that they probably will never achieve that American dream that was sold to them as a lie, then that's good. Like, you need to start somewhere as far as building class consciousness.
Yeah.
So that sort of discussion, that sort of dialogue is still important. Another thing I will say is debates are important as well still, especially if you are capable of dunking on these people. I talked to Ann Coulter on a Fox News affiliate show recently.
How was that?
It was a couple months ago. It was awesome. It's so obvious that she's never actually faced like a socialist or a leftist at all who can push back and be like, yeah, I don't care when Obama did this shit either. Yeah, that sucked. We talked about how it sucked.
Right.
It's obvious that she hasn't talked to anyone who's studied the right-wing talking points because, again, going back to the projection thing, everything that the right says is projection, including the NPC meme that they started. Because they literally follow the same dialogue options every single time. Venezuela, which is the most common one, like all the way to, how could you call yourself a socialist if you don't redistribute your wealth? Like these are.
How dare they tell you that your clothes look too nice for a socialist?
Yeah, these are all easily debunked talking points.
Lenin fucking had beautiful clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. You have to be starving and poor in order to be socialist. Like, there's no other.
Everyone knows Lenin was a hype beast.
Yeah. Lenin fucked. Okay. But yeah, sorry, I don't know if I'm getting too serious.
No, it's good.
But the point I'm trying to make is that discussion is still important, because if you're capable of dunking on these people, that absolutely works. Because Ben Shapiro made a career off of that. A lot of people like Steven Crowder made a career, made incredibly successful videos by just going up to and engaging in disproportionate warfare with hysterical college undergraduates in a power dynamic that is so asymmetrical that anyone with more than 3 brain cells could absolutely look at that and go, what the fuck? It's just like a college freshman asking you a question and you turning around and saying, no, that's not right. And then everyone in the room clapping. Like, that's not, you didn't dunk on anyone.
yeah.
Like,
And also, like, if I were to kind of, want to discuss with somebody, I probably wouldn't choose the dumbest MAGA guy out there to, like,
well,
try
I'm
to
saying
fight.
we should. I'm saying we should. It's not gonna be that hard. They come to my Twitch all the time and they try to debate me, and then I dunk on them, and the process is great. But during that process, you find out that a lot of these conservatives are the same exact talking points because they're getting it from the same places.
Yeah, of course.
It's either Poll or either Tucker Carlson and Fox News. Everyone's disseminating the same kind of misinformation. People that watch that video, people that watch those debates, that look at what I'm countering with, now are equipped with the proper tools to deal with that sort of misinformation.
Right.
If they ever engage anyone else in some form of discussion like that.
Yeah.
So I think, in that respect, I think that these sorts of debates are productive. But we should still actively engage in deplatforming Nazis. That's a given, 100%.
Yeah, of course. It seems like the right and the left doesn't even start with the same perception of reality. So it's kind of difficult to find common ground. It seems like this is increasingly the case in popular discourse and no longer just the theater of news networks. And at the same time, it seems like there's a real need for a system to de-radicalize some of the younger people who are constantly getting red-pilled through all of these banal mechanisms. So, I mean, what do you think is the best way forward? If there is any, like you described bread pilling, I'm assuming that's kind of like a term used to
I just
red
made
pill.
it up. Yeah.
Okay, because I've heard black pilling. I don't know if that's
No. That's black pilling,
Is that bad?
white pilling. These are all 4chan terms. Bread pilling, on the other hand, is just taking red pilling, the popular Matrix concept that the alt-right took over. Or
Sure.
at least originally the pickup artist community and
Yeah,
the
that's
right
right, yeah.
activist community took over. Then the alt-right started using and turning it into radicalizing them towards a more Marxist perspective rather than one that focuses on this like weird in-group out-group mentality of this race or whatever, like superior race, superior genes, that we should be focusing on eugenics and all this other stuff when all of the white people, I mean, look around, go to the South and talk to some white people and then tell me if that's the master race. Seriously.
They make great biscuits. I like bread pilling because it feels like a nod to how the beginning of the French Revolution was like all the women getting pissed off about the rising cost of bread, and that actually formed a kind of a mob that then led into the French Revolution. Of course, now we all just assume it's the dudes and stuff, but the original outrage was around bread stuff. So, cool, bread pilling. Let's do it. Oh, here we go. This is the real dessert of the pod. If you got too serious before, now we're jumping in. So you recently had 4chan's infamous poll post about you asking what they should do about the threat of a handsome young socialist blue-pilling people left and right. So first I wanted to read the post and then see what you had to say about some of these claims, challenges, and insults. I think this is, we're speaking to debate here. Okay, so the original post was really amazing. So it's just a picture of you. Kind of looks like a LinkedIn profile pic or something. Like it doesn't.
No, it's from my Instagram.
It's from his Instagram.
I'm giving the fuck me eyes. You know what I mean? It's like they luckily used a sexy photo of me. I mean, I guess
they did.
I guess my Instagram is carefully combed though.
That's by choice because they say, should we be worried about this lad or his lad? But I think they mean this lad. 6'5", 350 bench press, 15% body fat, hard anti-fascist far leftist, extreme charisma. He's already on Twitch blue pilling thousands a night. Pretty soon Young Turks will be so far ahead of other outlets that there's no way we're ever getting remotely close to the red pill as a society. List some thoughts on how to deal with this monstrosity.
So this came out. So this came out because the 4chan is talked about me before, especially the insult boards have talked about me and my skull measurements in the past to try to figure out if I'm a Chad or not. And and in a weird way, they respect me more than others because like genetically I am superior, I guess, from their perspective because I'm like tall and work out a lot.
You're not just some skinny Antifa punk.
Yeah, and like have sex with women and stuff. So allegedly, yeah, when I can, when I'm not Twitch streaming for 12 hours, but. So because of that, they were, they were always aware of me. But now I outed PewDiePie and Jared did some great work on this as well.
Yeah.
For for promoting a neo-Nazi or an alt-right guy's video essays on his massive platform of to his 77 million subscribers. And that kind of all hell broke loose a little bit because ER was celebrated in the poll for being like a really skillful, crafty guy who makes a lot of video essays, and then he like puts in anti-Semitic messaging in it, and he names and shames Jews. He literally puts like he names the Jew on his like Steven Universe essay, which is insane to me. Which had 2 million views, and it was monetized on YouTube even after it was taken down originally once. So someone manually was like, no, this video where you put up photos of Sarah Silverman and like Sumner Redstone and all of these other people, and then put their Jewish names if they're trying to hide their Jewish identity.
Yes, because they switched it so that Hollywood, which is also controlled by the Jews, but then somehow also the Jews want to change their name to get further in Hollywood. Weird.
Yeah. So that is fine. It should be monetized on the platform. So we like found all this stuff.
Yeah.
And all hell broke loose.
So that's what pissed them off proper.
That's what pissed them off originally, or that's what got them to start paying
now
attention,
they're like,
close attention. So now what do we do with him? Someone lied and said he's 5'11".
He's 5'11", bro. So I don't know. What do you have to say to that claim?
I mean, you guys know how tall I am in real life. I'm 6'4", but I'm not 6'5". It says I'm 6'5". In that original post. But
please, guys, knock him down 1 inch, but not as far as 5'11".
Yeah.
Hasan Piker, obviously misspells your name. Only a true mutt can have a name like that. So is it true that you are mixed blood? This is.
I mean, so I am an Ottoman, I guess. So, and I don't mean that in like the furniture sense. I mean that I'm Turkish.
It means that he likes to sometimes sub, and if a powerful woman needs to put her feet up,
I like to get crushed. I'm into crushing. No, I am a mixture of all different sorts of like Middle Eastern and even Greek ethnic backgrounds. So I guess technically I'd be a mutt, but that's what
every
everyone
single
is.
one of these fuckers is all just European mutts.
Yeah, so
just a variety of different European bloods mixed together.
But yeah, my last name is actually Piker, which my grandfather chose in 1923, I believe, in the last name revolution and a bunch of other revolutions that took that happened in Turkey.
It's a pretty intense last name. It sounds like you're going to war, and then you name yourself Hasan the Hun just to double down on the invader, the Ottoman invader.
Oh yeah, of course.
He's at the gates, and it seems like they've gotten the message because they're terrified. Another anonymous says, "I don't even think he is hetero, Desu. Also, what is up with that these days? I noticed a lot of buff gay guys at my gym." Yeah, I think he's gay, and also, man, I've been noticing these dudes in my gym.
Yeah, not like Nazis love noticing things. So this is probably another thing that they're just noticing. They're like, a lot of these fucking really hot guys at my gym. I just want to fucking. Do I want to spot them, or do I want to just wipe the sweat off of their brow with my tongue?
No, another anonymous says Alex Jones could kick his ass with a single glance. I'm gonna go ahead and say that I could probably roll Alex Jones down a hill. He's a tomato.
Yeah, I think he's a little buff. I think he's got like old fat guy strength.
Yeah, young Alex Jones was like a proper gym rat.
Yeah, I think and Cenk is the same way, by the way. He's very deceptive because you think he has like a double chin, so you're like, oh, he's just a fat guy. Like, no, Cenk can fuck dudes up. Okay,
right.
And so
the better battle would be.
Cenk versus Alex Jones, 100%. I think Cenk would destroy Alex Jones
probably
if they actually had like a serious fight. Yeah. I mean, the dude still bench presses like 225 10 times. Like he can rep 225s for 10. Don't think Alex Jones can do that. But I will say,
you guys should just switch instead of TOT. So switch to TRT, the Rip Turks. Yeah, and just go straight for it.
Yeah, TRT,
the Swole Turks,
testosterone replacement therapy, which is what we should be using.
Yeah,
mandatory at TYT. So. No, but Alex Jones is like the dense fat guy.
Yeah.
Like he's not just fat.
I think he could take me, but that's not saying much because I don't think I've lifted a thing in a few years.
You have a lot of knives though, so
that's what I'm saying. I'd cut him up. That's a very different approach. He did get caught. Like there was a live stream recently where some random guy in the street flipped him off, and then he had to chase him down.
Yeah, you don't think that was explosive? That was explosive muscle fibers in play. I saw that. That was athletic. Like the way he like turned around and ran after. It's
And
like
then-
a Pokemon. Like,
but it was
chasing
awkward
you.
because then he was like, "Oh, I'm filming myself. I can't assault someone because I'm literally like capturing the evidence that would be used against me." And so he gets up to me. He's like, "Oh, say what you gotta say." And the guy's like, "I already said it," and flips him off again. It just
Yeah.
like, damn, he just.
The mainstream cowards, Antifa cowards coming in to my. They can't tell me to my face what they want to say that they just said.
I just love that you would think that anyone walking by in the street is just a mainstream guy. Everyone's really mainstream to Alex Jones. Another anonymous says, he's probably a virgin. I think I've watched some video where Cenk begs for Cali women to message his nephew on social media. Truly pathetic. Did Cenk ever beg women to message you? Because that sounds like a really cool uncle. If he did, my uncle never has hooked me up like this.
This was like back. I don't even remember when it was. I think it was like 2012 or 2013. Like
Nice.
I'm in college.
Yeah.
It was really embarrassing. And then he like takes a photo of me and he's like, "Hit him up, ladies. He's single." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh
yeah.
God."
It's
And
just
you
a classic
And you can see how
older guy.
embarrassed I am in my fucking face too. And I'm like a child still. I'm still a child now, but back then I was definitely even more of a child.
I love that your uncle embarrassed you, and then that this guy's like, dude, that makes him a virgin. Like that, I know virgins.
Confirmed. Yeah, no,
I know
confirmed.
virgins. Okay, so this guy has posted a photo of from Gangs of New York of Big Rabbit Boss Man with the crazy eyeballs. And he wrote, "I saw a video of him talking about PewDiePie yesterday, as you were mentioning, and you can tell from his mannerisms and general demeanor that he's inevitably going to get wrapped up in some drug-related or Me Too type controversy." So he looked at you and he was like, "That dude is a drug addict and a rapist."
Yeah, I'm both simultaneously a virgin and a drug addict rapist at the same time. Like I've never been around women, but also yeah.
You're also crazed on PCP and trying to tear off clothes. So
Yeah, it's just 4chan projection.
what are you gonna
But,
do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm 20, 5'11". Give me 3 months and some basic fighting advice, and I could kill him. He's like, "Yeah, I can't do it now at all. But man, if you put me through some sort of like boot camp or like."
My favorite part about that goes unnoticed is basic fighting. Just basic fighting.
Just basic.
You know,
Yeah.
just like teach me how to punch, dude.
Yeah.
Like I got him after that.
Yeah,
Like, what does he
that's
think? Does he
Just
think
give me-
he's gonna find my address, come to my house, and stand outside and go, I challenge you to a duel with our to a duel of fisticuffs.
He's clutching his 3-month like
Yeah.
graduation like fucking diploma of like, I've learned basic fighting. I'm here for you. The next one, a Muslim Turk Zoolander with a hatred for the working class. That's an amazing take. Self-proclaimed male feminist, member of Antifa and gamer. Such a great list of things.
It's just like so many contradictions.
Yeah, this is hard to parse. He hates PewDiePie. He hates JonTron. He hates white people most of all. Too Strong.
Too Strong is a TYT reference, I think. Like TYT Army Too Strong. So
Sorry.
So this person is probably like one of those people who like started getting radicalized after Sam Harris was like, I'm not an atheist, I'm an anti-theist, but also like Muslims should be, we should nuclear first strike Muslims if we want to, because that'll preserve the future of the white race.
Also, Hollywood, a Muslim Turk Zoolander would be an amazing sequel. The second one sucked, so why not make a third one that's actually good by switching it to a Muslim
A Muslim.
Turk. All right, so that's about it. I think you debated your way out of that. I feel really satisfied that you would actually kill that 20-year-old. We have a couple of listener questions. Aaron T. wrote in to ask, what kind of LGBT stuff have you run into in the fever swamps? I mean, is that ever brought up? Conspiracy for or against? I'd imagine we'd be part of the child trafficking, but is there any gay Soros that they go after? Related, is there any LGBTQ focused community, i.e. twinks for Q, Q daddies, etc.? So
yeah, the attitude of the QAnon community to the LGBT community is not great. Let's say.
surprising.
Yeah, it's pretty toxic, in fact. So, like one thing that people in the QAnon community do pretty frequently is that they like to attack like liberals. I think quite justifiably when they're like hypocritical about like accusing people of being gay. like for example, when Lindsey Graham was being obsquicious towards Donald Trump, and then people made stupid jokes about like Lindsey Graham being closeted or being gay for Trump.
That was before he became like the rage version of himself that he showed during the Kavanaugh trial, and then now he's a Chad.
Yes. And so the QAnon believer, On With Logic, says, I know. Anyone surprised that leftists are directing homosexual slurs at Lindsey Graham? This nasty.
Is this Ryan Savidra?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
No, that's he does that all the time.
Okay.
Anyone surprised?
Yeah,
Just that format?
No, he does the. No one talked about Mika Brzezinski when she said "butt boy," while he is unironically a reporter for. Is he the Daily Caller or the Daily Wire? Do you guys know? One of those two.
I try not to learn the difference.
That's Daily Wire. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, when he's a reporter for an establishment where the guy who created it refused to bake a cake for Dave Rubin because he does not think that Dave Rubin should be married to another man.
Wait, but Dave Rubin's also like a right-wing piece of garbage, right?
Yeah. Oh, but it doesn't matter. He's gay. So Ben Shapiro's still like, no, I will logic you out of being homosexual.
Well, we found a weird connection there, but I found, and this is actually kind of our scoop, I found out that the guy who founded Gays for Trump is a QAnon guy.
Shocking.
Peter Boykin, who is the founder and president of Gays for Trump, is just a full-on QAnon guy.
Yeah.
He tweets about it very frequently.
Yeah.
So Boykin, who has over 50,000 Twitter followers and has the blue check mark.
But his ratio is shit. It fucking sucks.
Silence, dude. They're silencing him. Sorry.
So he tweeted this on March 14th. Guys, it's now officially GLB and Trump and QAnon. And as
gay, lesbian, bisexual?
yeah, well, yes, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and T and Q, but for Trump and QAnon instead of.
Wait, but okay, wait. So has he done the thing of like
he's a TERF, dude.
he's do GLB? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like
a TERF.
only the GLBs, so no trans.
Yeah, no, yeah. Because what
Damn.
Peter Boykin does not realize is that the transphobia is just because it's acceptable publicly. Like the transphobia is a substitute for homophobia.
Yeah.
But I guess he is reluctant to see that now that
I have to say that
white gays can be racist.
the Overton window has shifted when you at least have to do the GLB and you're still a Trump QAnon guy. Like I think 50 years ago he would have just been straight up in the closet and just been like passing legislation against gay people.
Yeah. But that's I don't think these people realize that like once they take away once they oppress and systemically oppress as many trans people as possible and like write them off of existence or whatever and like censor scientific evidence to prove that the trans people are just perfectly fine then they'll what do they think they're going to continue to attack? They're going to go back to the gays.
Yeah.
That's what that's why it's so weird to me when you see like a marginalized community member go like, oh yeah, I think the transphobia is totally fine. It's like, no, dude, like they're coming after you next. Again, it wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So generally speaking, they talk about the LGBT community and in a really conspiratorial manner, but generally in that they think that the normalization or the acceptance of the LGBT community is sort of like a stepping stone to the acceptance of pedophilia. Is sort of the conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And they do things like they constantly accuse people being closeted homosexuals, like Barack Obama. I saw Justice John Roberts and Senator Cory Booker. They've accused,
as opposed to Michelle, that they just think is a trans man.
Yes,
they just straight up think she's trans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's like when talking about Catholic priests who molested underage boys, they sometimes fault them for being homosexual priests, as homosexuality was run rampant throughout the Catholic Church. And
I can't believe the Catholic Church was ruined by the homosexual agenda.
Yes,
it's disgusting.
Yeah,
and they really do not have a good track record with transgender people.
Oh my, is this? Oh wow.
Yes, so I want to share. Maybe we'll share one tweet. Maybe we'll cut this. It's kind of intense.
Holy shit.
But yes, one QAnon believer tweeted basically it's like an image of a big boobied devil with horns and a pentagram in his head.
I think this devil is awesome. It's a goat head with a fucking pentagram on it and boobs and a big beard, and there's the moon and there's wings and this cool thing that makes it look like she or he or it has a power in the groin region, and then a cool robe. Like, I'm down.
But it has no uterus.
Yeah, so this is what this tweet says. Guess who else has a phallus and breasts? Oh, and no uterus, which means an end to people. The transgender agenda, less people, is not neurosurgery to figure out. Hashtag MAGA, hashtag QAnon, hashtag Great Awakening.
Less people is actually a really good agenda, you fucking moron. Like, we have overpopulation.
This is the thing I don't understand. If you're secure in your sexuality, or if you're secure in your gender identity, like there's no way that you can be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go out and take hormone therapy and transition into becoming a woman. Like
it's not a pleasure.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant experience. And again, I only have anecdotes to refer to from trans people in my community that I talk to regularly about this sort of stuff. But it's a really complicated, expensive, and tumultuous process. Yeah. Usually after a lot of your members of your community prior have abandoned you, and to think that all of these people are going to ultimately turn into trans women, or everyone's going to transition to the other gender, or everyone's gender identity is going to be somehow compromised, is so insane to me.
Yeah.
I think that if it was more accepted, certainly there would be an increase in people who are openly trans, and that's great. I welcome that. But to think that like every single person is it's the same hysteria that we have with homosexuality. It's like, I don't understand. Do you wanna suck a dick? Is that what it is? Like,
I just love the idea that my gender somehow like can be modified by other people. Like, it's like you can still do whatever you want.
But that's like Rick Perry, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember. He was like rampant homophobe, right? And this is, again, I know that this is not like politically correct to be like, oh, he's in the closet, because you then automatically vilify homophobia, or you attribute homophobia exclusively to the members of the LGBT community or whatever. And that's of course not the case. But Rick Perry used to say, look, I avoid dicks like alcoholism. He's like, I know the temptation is there for alcohol, but I don't drink alcohol, and that's what homosexuals should do. And I had never thought about it that way. Where I'm like,
you don't come home in the evening and just want to crack a cold dick open and just have one or two.
That's a guy who sees someone. Working out at the gym, and he starts noticing that there are a lot of buff gay dudes.
That is that.
And he's like, man, I really want to just kiss that guy.
Once out of 10, they would like enjoy to kiss a man instead of a woman.
Yeah, because
and
sexuality is fluid.
Yeah, very fluid.
Like,
they can't accept even like the little fragment of desire that they might have in that direction. It's just like, no, it has to be black and white. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like just go and try whatever you want to try.
What are you gonna do? Not kiss Frank Ocean? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And Frank Ocean has offered to kiss Rick Perry multiple times.
Rick Perry's just avoiding it.
Well, Rick Perry is a beautiful thirst trap on Instagram, so Frank is always just in the comments and sliding into his DMs and shit. Allegedly. So Jeremy H says, I've got a mailbag question I'm afraid to research myself. What does Q have to say about chemtrails? Like, if chemtrails are the government and Trump has things in hand, why am I still seeing chemtrails? Does the deep state cabal control chemtrails?
So, I mean, this is something that actually people in the QAnon community who place a great deal of importance on chemtrails are confused by themselves.
Of course.
Of course, this is, the whole, I feel like...
I see some 5G shit going on here. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think that, it was Matt Crispin, he made, when he was on the show, he made an excellent point that the point of QAnon is to resolve this contradiction where they expected Trump to do all these amazing things.
And he hasn't.
And he hasn't. And so this is basically the same problem with the chemtrails. The chemtrails are still appearing and Trump's still president. And,
it's hard to put it together.
And so they believe that there is a cure for cancer, right?
Yes, they believe that. Yeah, there are hidden cures that have been suppressed by the pharmaceutical industry.
Why isn't Trump like releasing this information?
Oh,
What
well,
a terrible man.
Because he's doing battle with the deep state. It'll come out in due time. Don't you worry. Is
Yeah.
the story they tell. So here's one tweet from Ongoing Awakening, and they say
Firestarter Anon is the handle. I
Yes.
love that.
so they say, "Dear President Trump, can we please address the 5G rollout, the chemtrails still poisoning all life at Earth, geoengineering, and the directed energy weapons wildfires? All this swamp draining and no word on these subjects makes you look complicit in the deep state shenanigans. Hashtag QAnon at POTUS."
He still is like, we know you're doing all the swamp draining, but like also address this maybe because
Yes, yeah.
I love that he didn't send it to the actual account that that Trump uses, but instead added the
POTUS.
official POTUS account.
Yes,
it's not just anybody.
This is an official
This
message.
is a formal request
Yeah.
from the
To a
President of
government
the
agent.
United States.
At your president.
Yeah.
So this is another QAnon believer, and when let's see here, Lighthorse Lee, which is at Lee Lighthorse, says, "Does QAnon give clues to why at POTUS Trump allows chemtrails to continue to gas the citizens of the U.S.? Question mark."
And that was a response to Lionel Media, who's a real classic friend of the show. There are people in this country who look at this and say this is nothing but various accumulations of water vapor mimicking hashtag geoengineering. They are called in the medical literature stupid. in the medical literature on chemtrails, we call the people who just think it's water vapor stupid.
Yeah, that's. I think I read that in the Lancet. It's a formal term.
Yeah. We hope that answered your questions. If you would like to write in to ask a question, most people have been DMing me on Twitter. I run the at QAnon Anonymous handle, or you can just write in to QAnonanonymous@gmail.com. I did have a very extended question shot at me that was just not really a question, just someone trying to order me around about how I should change my mind about the Steele dossier and how it's super serious. He actually was like, "Could you do an episode on the Steele dossier?" And then 2 seconds later, texted me, he's like, "Don't do it like your Q episodes, though. The Steele dossier is fucking awesome, okay? So you got to take it really seriously." And I was like, "I don't know. All right, thanks for writing in."
Is the Steele dossier and Russia hysteria the liberal QAnon?
It kind of is.
It frequently is. Yeah,
Yep.
I talk about this. The concept of like sealed indictments that are going to take down all these bad actors in government, that started not with QAnon, but with like Louise Mensch, who fantasized about it. It's like,
Also friend of the show, I'm assuming.
Oh, yes.
friend of the show.
Louise is
So yeah,
golden.
She said that months before QAnon. It's like, oh, there are all these sealed indictments, and I think they're going to take down like Trump and company. And they really, and QAnon, they ran with that. They didn't say that there were dozens of sealed indictments. They were saying like 10,000s.
So that's your answer, guy who wrote in. We think you're part of the liberal QAnon. Thank you so much for tuning in for another week of QAnon Anonymous. Thanks for humoring us, Hasan.
Oh, no. Thanks for having me, guys.
You can follow Hasan on Twitter at Hasan the Hun. Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I have a Twitch that I go live on every single day at 5 p.m. Pacific, and I usually do 5 to 10 hour live streams. I did one for 12 hours yesterday. I interview a variety of different leftists, and I debate a bunch of chuds and also even people who believe that, very seriously believe that the California wildfires were started by space lasers that wanted to punish the state of California. That's at twitch.tv/Hasanabi, and you can come watch that over there. And then I usually put some of the VODs of the greatest hits on my YouTube, and that's just Hasan Piker.
You can also go to TYT and check out The Breakdown, which is your show on that, right?
Yeah.
Did you just say you started at 5 p.m. and did 10 to 12 hours?
During the week from Monday to Thursday, I do 6 to 8 hour streams from 5 p.m. onward.
Yeah, right. So Hasan is a gamer American, and he's part of the working class. We don't run any advertising on our podcast. We are supported by our listeners. Our Patreon is patreon.com/QAnonAnonymous. If you pay $5 a month, you'll get access to our premium episodes and give the show a chance to grow and put out even more stuff. Our goal is to make this a full-time thing and remain fiercely independent. When you subscribe to our Patreon, you contribute to making this a reality. Thanks to our new $5 supporters this week: Aaron P., Austin H., Billy L., Chris T., Corbin G., Goose, Hugh G., Matthew M., and Stuart B. And thanks to our $10 contributors: Drew M., Venny S., Josh R., Adam W., Eric O., John S., Joel D., and Luke B. And final huge thanks to our $20 contributor, Susie R. If you can't afford to support us financially, you can always help by telling friends about us, posting about us on social media and message boards, etc. If you haven't already, go on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. There are only 5 genders, incidentally. Listener, until next week, may the deep dish bless you and keep you.
It's not a conspiracy.